I'm okay at Age of Sigmar. I'm not great, because I choose not to do the things required to become great at this game. I picked up Age of Sigmar shortly after it got points, in the midway between GHB 1 and 2 as my dad game. The casual contrast to my competitive Magic the Gathering grinder career for over a decade, essentially retiring, and wanted an artistic hobby with a chill game attached. I chose one of the weakest armies in the game at the time that I liked the models and lore of, and off I went. I know what it takes to be high-level competitive in a game. Practice, repetition, planning, a team to test against and bounce ideas off of, poring over the stats and being on the cutting edge of leaks and tech, predicting metagames both locally and nationwide, the dynamic of brewer versus pilot, innovator versus tweaker, the art of sideboarding, scouts at events, knowing the rules perfectly, thinking ahead of the lines of play, taking notes and puzzling out what your opponent's game plan is, what they're playing towards, what they might have just drawn, the chances of drawing this card or that card and playing to your outs, picking a deck for the field versus picking a deck when you have buys, versus picking a deck for doing well in the top 8. Most of this translates to what it takes to be great at Age of Sigmar, but I'm not trying to do that with this game. Many of you are not either. A consequence of my choices is that I won't be getting handed many trophies, or perhaps any at all when I go to AOS tournaments. In addition, when I play on TTS or on stream or at the local shop, I will lose many games. If it's on stream, I will and have lost games in front of hundreds of people watching and judging me. It's fine. I signed up for this as a content creator. It's why I always ask my opponents if they're cool with playing for an audience. Some people might be uncomfortable, and that's understandable. Sometimes it will be because I lost a priority role, or a Stonehorn just whiffed an entire combat, or I got paired into an unlucky matchup, but really, I'll lose because of my choices that led me to those situations. Deploying wrong, not knowing a matchup, forgetting something. Blaming the dice is a loser's mentality because you can't change the truly random elements, and the goal is to improve. And you should focus on improving the things you can control instead of fixating on the things you can't. I consider that good life advice in general as it happens. The goal is to make the best decisions the most often. And not like a time traveler, like you knew you would roll that one, but with the information available at the time, considering the randomness to be just a statistical chance each time. So if you ran it back 100 times, you'd win in the majority of timelines. Winning individual games or trophies becomes then a byproduct of this attitude. Start to blame the dice, and the subtle shift from agency to excuse can be pernicious and needs to be actively resisted. Its maidenless behavior makes you play worse, is self-deceptive, and leads to an irritating, self-fulfilling prophecy doomer mentality. Not enjoyable to be around as a gamer or as a person. With the right attitude, you should never truly be upset at the outcome of a game. Sure, you can be superficially disappointed in losing in the moment, maybe embarrassed if it's live on Twitch, but consider the implications of each outcome. Remember Nelson Mandela, you either win or you learn. Although it's very important to learn from your wins as well, it makes for a messier quote. If you lost because of a mistake, that's good. Because you know the reason, which is sometimes hard to pinpoint. And you just won't make that mistake again, so future games won't be lost in that way, and you've improved. If you lost to bad beats, and it's not just your brain tricking you with negativity bias into thinking that it was bad luck as a coping mechanism. For instance, on a 2-up you win, and you rolled the 1, and you lost. That's good. Because you got the game to a point where you have an 83% chance to win. Take those odds any day. If you played the same game 1,000 times, you win an enviable 833 of them. Imagine thinking I should have bet on rolling that 1, and consider how damaging that line of thought can be to your future decisions. Really, next time you're going to take the 1-outer. Well, it's true that exact specific game was one of the 166 out of 1,000 you, quote, should have. But we're trying to make the best decisions the most often, not reinforce bad decisions that arbitrarily pay off in hindsight, with no way to know at the time. If you lost because you simply got outplayed, that's good. Because if your opponent was better than you, you deserve to lose. And it's great practice playing against strong opponents. It's one of the best ways to level up. And a reason that finding a strong team to practice with is so important. And also why practice is so important. If you lost because your opponent's army is OP or counters yours, it sounds like you already know that you have a bad matchup, and you should be practicing your worst matchups the most often, especially if you are more likely to see them at tournaments or top tables if that's your aim. You can wimp out in casual games and ask your opponent to baby you with a weaker army, but you can't run forever. Take the challenge. It's not about winning, it's about improving. It looks like Lumineth beats Khorne a staggering 75% of the time. So, be the 25%. 1 in 4 Khorne players pull it off against their bad matchup. That one Khorne player might as well be you. You know that Picard quote? It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness, that is life. It's a beautiful line of dialogue, but I find it incomplete. It's insightful for chipping away at the granite block of dealing with the idea of losing and letting go of obsessing over things you can't control, which many people seem to have a problem with, obviously. But I think it's more useful to come to terms with the idea that you might think you made no mistakes, but you unequivocally have. Tons of them. You were just probably unaware of them. Some of them maybe no one could have been aware of at the time, but there will be no shortage. Go ahead and watch a recording of your last game. You will find mistakes. More than that, some of your mistakes you may have arbitrarily chosen to ignore, for instance, before the game began when you chose your army, or your list. I propose a system of honesty with oneself. The I don't suck at the game, my army does guy. The person who secretly knows that they wouldn't do well even if they did chase the meta, and really tried to win with it. So they try to hide that fact by visibly handicapping themselves as a pre-planned excuse for not being very good, and also publicly shame others for trying to play well or use good units. It's pure, unadulterated cope. This person is toxic but doesn't have to be. I'm not terribly good, but I like Geats, and I try to do well with them. Painless, self-aware, a positive spin, and not shitting on other people for your own insecurities. What a healthy, well-adjusted take you could have. The I like dragons but people will complain about them and think I'm just chasing flavor of the month guy. My advice is to play what you like. First of all, you bought a whole ass army and spent 3 months painting it. I'm not sure what more someone could want from you. Show them your Dragonlance lunchbox from middle school to prove you like dragons before they existed in AOS. I thought we were past this hipster phase. This person is dealing with the toxicity of others, and it's really on those people to not be bitches. But consider saying, I like dragons, and it turns out dragons are the shit in this game, so that's sweet. I'm gonna play dragons. This seems reasonable. You like ninjas. If the ninja is good in Guilty Gear, you're gonna play it. Like, what's the problem? Look, everyone likes an underdog, but some people out here acting like playing bad units is a virtue. It's not. And trying to guilt others into doing so is weird. Don't be weird. Consider using your best units and trying to play well. The best players in the world will lose to factors outside their control just the same as the worst players will. However, something consistently brings the best players repeated success, and that thing is everything that is within their control. It sounds obvious because it is, that when you choose not to try very hard, you tend to lose to the people who have chosen to try much harder than you. This leads to the toxic casual paradox, where they want to do well most of the time, while putting forth none of the effort required to do so. And a game that roughly half the time rewards anyone with a win regardless of what they do is a pure game of chance, and hence deeply unsatisfying to play for all but young children. It's Chutes and Ladders. So at about this moment I can hear you telling me that you aren't trying to be the best player in the world, that improvement at the game isn't that important to you, you're not win at all costs, that you don't have time to try that hard because probably admittedly some choices you made. You got 7 kids, 4 jobs, you can only play 12 seconds a month, but that's perfectly reasonable, just own it. Where it becomes unreasonable is where you complain about the direct consequences of your choices as if those are someone else's responsibility. Look, I am bad at MOBAs, and I don't like them. I'm bad at fighting games, but I like them anyway. So, I play fighting games, and I don't play MOBAs. In other words, it's about attitude. Thanks for watching, and thanks to my sponsors if I had any. I'm HeyWoah, watch me on Twitch if you feel like it, and buy a shirt, will ya?